Good morning and happy Shochu'sday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Why is my light not okay? Well, man, these rechargeable batteries, man. Anyways, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Shochu'sday. Both Stephen and I are currently in Japan. We're back at our normal recording on our normal recording grounds of Tokyo for me, Fukuoka for him, and Kanpai. Kanpai's
I'm
all
fine.
around. How you doing, Stephen?
Good morning, Christopher. I'm happy. Today's a holiday in Japan,
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot
so
about that.
actually cooking Thanksgiving dinner on a Wednesday instead of a Thursday because we
Oh
do
yeah.
everything early here anyway.
What are you gonna cook?
I got a turkey from the meat guy, little one.
The meat guy.
Gonna give it a try in the convection oven, see how that works. Dinner
Nice.
might end up being like 9 or 10 at night, but we'll give it a shot. And I'm also very happy. I'm wearing my Mold is Gold T-shirt,
Good.
celebrating Koji a little bit with some Thanksgiving colors. Um, yeah,
Are you
it's
working koji into any of the recipes? You got any shio koji rubs or anything?
that's a great idea. I should probably do that. I haven't treated the turkey yet, so I guess I could try a shio koji on the turkey.
Yeah,
Give it a shot.
probably
That's
wouldn't
a good
hurt.
idea.
Give it a couple hours. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you've got hours to spare, if it's already defrosted and everything.
it's on its way to defrosted, so yeah. But I need to find some shio koji, I guess. That'll be
I'm sure there's some app you can use to have it magically appear. Um, Without further ado, why don't we move to our first section of the day, booze news? What's
yeah.
going on?
Got a little bit to cover actually. We haven't talked booze news in a while.
Yeah.
Um, I guess a quick first one is Total Food Service published an article entitled "Now We're Sipping Shochu." It's always nice when a organization we've never heard of gets in on the fun.
Hmm.
Um, Apologies to Total Food Service. They're an uh, industry thing. Let me see. Where's their? Here it is. Just sharing the screen. Of course, Ichigo gets top billing because uh, it's it's a big brand. But basically, talking about how the New York State laws have changed uh, the ability to sell shochu on a soft license in New York State. Gives a little background on shochu. Quotes Chikako Chihara from New York Restaurant Association, New York Japanese Restaurant Association, and then gives a little background on how shochu is made and all that sort of thing. Uh, a quote from Tetsuro Miyazaki from Ichiko, a friend of
Yep.
ours, and then Fred Sabo, the executive chef for Restaurant Associates, which is actually the restaurant in MoMA. No, not MoMA, in the New York. What is it? Museum of Art, the big one in
Oh,
Central Park. So yeah, a few different quotes that'll talk about cocktails from this gentleman Sam Bolton from the Pineapple Club Cocktail Bar.
mm.
So yeah,
And a
few different.
couple of key quotes about how important it is to be explaining the differences between Japanese shochu and Korean soju.
That's right.
Um,
I'll
and
drop that.
yeah, that's definitely a worthwhile read.
I'll drop that
And
in the comments so
okay,
everybody's got it.
cool.
And then
Um,
yeah, stop
yeah,
sharing that.
coming
And then
up.
the other thing, a little personal news
Uh huh.
is I had my first, I guess I could say my first commissioned article published. I was asked by Melissa Yeager of Lonely Planet to write 4 days in Fukuoka. I guess my reputation as a food fan preceded me, and fortunately, our friend from Megane Coffee and Spirits ended up getting the cover photo. Great
Nice.
little. Basically, it is so Megane means glasses, so he wears these little round glasses like many Japanese men of a certain age will do, and then he makes pour over coffee. He does coffee infusions, as you can see there in the center of the photo, and then he pours premium spirits. And this is his evening yatai. So this is just one of those little stands where you pick up, or you after dinner, or even for dinner, you go to one of these little stands. They pop up every night. They get torn down every night. They get carted away, bring them back the next day, and it takes him about 2 hours to set his up. So he
Mm.
gets there about 4 or 5 to be ready by 6 or 7 to open, and then he works till about midnight, and then he's going home at 2 a.m. And then he does the whole thing over again. And he retired from his ad agency job in Tokyo to come do this. So obviously he has a design sensibility. He's, but really interesting guy. A great spot if you need to grab an after dinner drink. He doesn't really serve food, so you'd want to go to one of the neighboring yatai if you're hungry. But he's
Yeah.
right next door to actually Yatai Bar Ebichan, which is the full service
Ebichan's
cocktail
great.
bar. It does
Yeah.
have food actually. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so basically, I wrote a 4-page piece, and they asked me for sort of my personal experiences, right? So it's really they called it like a personality-driven travel guide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like I broke out what to do each day. So day one, I'm suggesting you go to the morning fish market and have some coffee to start your day, and then have a bowl of ramen, of course, because you're in Fukuoka. Do a little exploration in the afternoon, and then dinner is really your choice. And then, of course, there are places to drink in the evening.
Sure.
Uh, and then just, yeah, it's a pretty long piece. It's about 2,500 words or so. So, but it gives a pretty full guide to what to do each day. And of course, eating and drinking figures prominently in the article because that's what I tend to do in my free time. But as you can see from the photos, there's lots and lots of places to go and do in Fukuoka. It's not a, for me, it's not a one day stop, which is what a lot of people do for Fukuoka. There's just way too much to do and too much to enjoy. And amusingly, actually, these two gentlemen here are part of Nerd Night Kyushu,
Yeah.
uh, and they just happen to be at Todoroki Sake stand, the standing bar in Todoroki liquor store, when when they were there to do photography. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so nice little. If anybody's coming to visit Fukuoka, this is a lot of my favorites. Of course, if I couldn't recommend everything, and there are obviously places that I just am not going to suggest because I think the barrier of entry is going to be too high for non-Japanese speaking foreigners,
Sure.
uh, or there's just too few seats, and I want to be able to get my reservation. So
That's right.
you guys
There's
can't
a
have it.
I've got multiple places in Tokyo that I'm like, yeah, I'll take you there, but you're not allowed to tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my favorite sushi spot. It's an 8 seat counter, and he does one seating a night. So I'm not going to recommend that. I'll never be
No.
able to get a table. Never be
Yep.
able to get
Right.
a seat.
Yep.
So
He's already got more than enough patronage. So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
very cool. Congrats on that. And
Thank you.
I read through it myself, and there's lots of stuff for folks of all walks of life to enjoy, and a lot of inspiration. So meaning you'll find something and then, or you'll see something in the list and then you think, oh well, I like the idea of that, but maybe something not exactly like that, and you can search for other things that are going to be tangential to it, and I
Mhm,
think you'll
mhm.
find a lot more to love
Sure,
about
sure.
Fukuoka, which is a super walkable city, very cuisine driven,
Yeah,
and the people are nice. So
yeah. I
definitely
think other
worth your
than the
time.
last day, I probably am getting people their 10,000 steps. I have them do a lot of walking if they're taking the actual tour the guided
Mm-hmm.
directions about where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It's a very walkable city. Amazing food, amazing drink, and it's really you can go just about anywhere, pop in and try something, and you're not going to be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
As my friend Ben Johnson is fond of saying, he says you have to work really hard to have a bad meal in Japan. Like it's just so easy to find a spot that's gonna satisfy your cravings, and yeah,
Yeah, especially if you're
it's easy,
spending more than 1,000 yen.
right? Well, it's definitely easy to have a bad drink in Japan, which is why we're here to try to help avoid that. I would the Kuraichi. All right, little side note here. I think we have one more booze news before we move on, but recently Kuraichi on their Instagram promoted uh, Koroi Shochu,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all I could do not to be like, why are you encouraging people to drink industrial distillate when you've got a store full of stuff made by hand by craftspeople, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Maybe,
that's a fireable offense.
they might have a lot of it, I guess.
That
Yeah.
could be. That could be. But anyway, yeah, there was some awards there's some scores announced recently, right, for some Honkaku spirits offerings.
Oh yeah, there were, weren't there? I
Yeah.
don't have them in front of me. Do you have
Let me see
anything?
if I can find them.
While you're trying to find them, just a quick heads up to people in New York City. Next week on the 29th of November, there is going to be a pretty cool small scale awamori tasting at Rule of Thirds. Unfortunately, we don't have like a sign up sheet or a ticket purchase web link yet. But if you follow our socials, then we'll be sure to forward that as soon as we have it in hand. It's going to be an opportunity to taste, I think it's five, might even be six different really interesting awamori from Okinawa that are not available in the United States, alongside one that is. And also to hear from a couple of people who know a whole lot about these drinks. So November 29th, I believe it's starting at 7 p.m. Keep that on your radar and buy a ticket as soon as you can. I think they might be capping it pretty low. It might only be
Yeah.
20 seats.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's right.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, I think it'll probably show up on Bin Bin Sake's Instagram before too long
right,
when they
right.
do announce it. Yeah.
In fact, I'll put a couple of these details in the comments. Stephen, what did you find anything you could share in terms of those awards?
Yep. Yeah. So the
Okay.
wine enthusiasts recently evaluated uh, some shochu from Honkaku Spirits, and let's see, the highest rated actually was Kana, the Kokuto Sugar Shochu from Nishihira Distillery. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a barrel aged for 1 year, got 97 points, which, if you're familiar with wine enthusiasts, anything over a 90 is pretty great. And for a shochu in an a spirit in a relatively unknown category to get a 97 is pretty stellar. So if you have not tried Kana, maybe worth picking up. Kara Newman is actually their spirits reviewer. She does all things spirits for wine enthusiasts. Has a great palate. You can see down below actually, Cellophant, the sister brand of Kana, got 92 points. Jukuya White from Kagoshima got 46. Sweet potato shochu, and then Colorful got 95. And if you'll permit me a quick search, I believe there was an awamori as well. There it is, Yoka Koji, the new offering, the awamori from. Looks like they want me to sign up for something. Anyway, Yoka Koji got 95 points. So yeah, good job, Honkaku Spirits, bringing in some of the highest scoring shochu on wine enthusiasts. If these scores matter, and these scores do matter, I think, for especially for liquor stores. You'll often see the scores on the little price tag, the little shelf talker, telling you a little bit about the brand, and they'll have a little score. And I think for these unknown brands or these unknown spirits, it's important to have that available for unfamiliar consumers, and it gives the
Yep.
sales staff a talking point,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's pretty cool that so many of the brands from Hongaku Spirits got really nice reviews. Of course, the first time Jamie Graves tried Yoka Koji, the text message that he sent me was very, very enthusiastic and profanity laden. He was very, very impressed with Yoka Koji. So
Yoka Koji is a beast.
it is. It's a good one for sure. And I love the
Yep.
packaging. I love that black bottle with the black label and the silver. It's just really
Yeah.
striking on the shelf.
Very faithful to the original iteration here in
Mm-hmm.
Japan.
Yep.
Very, very faithful to that, because you don't mess with perfection. So, well, cool. So that was a intense,
Yeah,
almost
it's a lot of
like
booze news.
12-minute long booze news. Let's move on to the main event here, just to keep this thing clipping. Main event, of course, is Terroir and Japanese spirits, and this is inspired by some of our recent work on Japan distilled.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, we went through the different GIs, geographical indications, that have been given by the WTO to Japanese spirits, and then also did an episode actually about terroir in spirits and our thoughts about it. It was just kind of just us having a conversation. And this, hopefully, we won't cover the same ground here, but I think it's interesting to talk about. And I've actually recently listened to an episode of Pour Me a Drink, or is that what
Okay.
it's called? It's the
I think
new
so.
it's the new podcast from David Wondrich and Noah Rothbaum, which they moved from where were they before? They were at
Behind Life
it was
Behind Bars.
Fix Me a Drink. Yeah. So Life Behind Bars was their previous podcast when they were working for a different outfit, and now they're working for Flaviar. They've joined Flaviar, and they've got this new podcast, Fix Me a Drink, and they touched on terroir in spirits in a discussion with Dave Broom on Scotch, and about whiskey generally. And it was really interesting listening to them think about it because, and they made a really good point, and I think it's something we haven't talked a lot about. Is we talk about 500-600 year history, and Scotch has that too, right?
Sure.
Scotch whiskey and Shochu, Irish whiskey even before that. These spirits traditions all started around at the same time as distilling technology just spread like wildfire during the 1400s. But what what we don't really talk about is that for most of that history, what they were making and what people were drinking were not very good.
Sure, they were not.
Right? We are in a golden age of high quality spirits production. And I mean, the Scotch whiskey industry 50, 60, 70 years ago was on death's door.
Mm-hmm.
And it was people had stopped drinking blended Scotch. They weren't really in the market, wasn't growing. It was shrinking. That was an old man's drink. You know, it's all cyclical. And then it's when they started to release single malts, which almost didn't exist. Right. Many of these Scotch whiskey distilleries, for most of their history, have simply been making malt to put into blends.
Sure.
Right. And it's only in the last few decades that single malt whiskey has taken off in Scotland and now here in Japan. And we could have a similar conversation about shochu,
Mm-hmm.
right? That certainly pre Kurosei Toji, pre the Toji guilds, what was being made was probably usually not very good.
Yeah.
Right? People just didn't have the technology or the knowledge required to make really high quality spirits. And I'm sure there's some great stuff that was being made. Of course, all of that lost to history. Don't necessarily know who was making it, but it sort of got me thinking about the whole concept of terroir in a different way, in the sense that we are, and it's in some ways I guess we spread the propaganda of the category in a way, right? Because it's our job to help these producers survive and to make their product appealing to the consumer, right? And yet, how much of it is ground truth, and how much of it is propaganda, right?
I don't think much of it is propaganda. I'm going to push back on that a little bit
Sure.
because
No, that's what I wanted
then more so than now, they were using local ingredients. Now the ingredients traverse boundaries. They traverse borders of prefectures and that sort of thing. So I think that while it may not have been highly potable, it might not have been the most amazing of drinks. I would argue that at its inception, the local nature of these drinks was way more intense than it is today. So I think there's always probably been some form of, and also they didn't have the yeast culturing that we have now. It was so much more of a wild fermentation back then,
right.
just by necessity. But at the same time, yeah, of course, we are highlighting these things, but the thing that makes it so easy to highlight, at least in the shochu and the awamori world, is that it's really one of the few distillation styles in the world where it's single pot distillation. So, it just leaves so much of what is in there. And if you are using local ingredients and it's made by folks from that area and whatever, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. We do definitely pump it up a little bit, but yeah, it's a local story. Absolutely. There is a terroir story there.
Yeah. I guess I wasn't saying it wasn't terroir. I was just more making the bigger picture argument that, like, we talk about steeped in tradition and all this sort of thing. And I'm thinking it's because the Scotch whiskey industry they're the world leaders at doing this, right?
Sure.
There's a reason why that's one of the most sought after spirits in the world, and it's great stuff. It's just that it hasn't been great stuff for 500 years. It's been great stuff for 100 years.
Sure. Well, that's the same. That's actually that's longer than it's been great stuff in the shochu world, probably. I mean, that's why the single or the multiply distilled, industrial distillate that you referenced before, Kourui, actually
Yeah.
got the name Kourui because it
Right.
was so much easier to drink than the
Yeah.
Otsurui stuff, or what became known as Otsurui, or
Yeah.
the single pot distilled stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Quick sidebar, everybody out there. All of the Kourui stuff, that's not really made in Japan. It's like industrial spirit shipped in from South America, so it's not really a
Yeah.
Japanese product. So let's not get too excited about it. Probably shouldn't even call it shochu, but hey, that's just a tax consideration.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Nice sidebar for sure. Yeah. If it's cheaper than if it's cheaper, let's set some boundaries. If it's cheaper than the cheapest bottle of Ichiko or the cheapest bottle of Yokaichi,
Or the
then
cheapest bottle of rock gut grape juice wine, you know.
well, in the States it
I,
might not be. Right.
that's true.
Overseas it might not be.
I
Yeah.
need to get. I need somebody to gift me a bottle. I don't want to purchase it myself, but I need somebody to give me a bottle of the stuff so I can kind of
Right.
bandy it about.
Yeah. It's shochu in name only. It really is just it's low proof vodka and not even carefully made. I mean, there's some craft vodka makers are making pretty interesting things these days, but it's not that. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah, it
nice
is not.
sidebars. That's the opposite of terroir driven.
That is. Yep, that's
Yeah,
right.
but and it was interesting. And we've talked about, I guess, where we touched on it a little bit in our terroir episode is, a lot of the grain is imported now, right? For example, a lot of barley shochu is made
Almost
from
all of it.
Australian, Canadian, American barley, because there's not a lot of barley in Japan to go around when they're making beer and bread and all the other stuff you make with barley. So
Sure.
miso even. So it's a lot of it's imported, and yet you still have the touches of terroir that can shine through in the production process. Who's making it, where they're making it, the local yeasts, the use of koji, right? That sort of thing. I think is where at least it has that sense of place.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but and it's the same thing with Scotch whiskey, right? Nobody's making Scotch from barley grown next to the distillery in
Hmm.
Scotland, right? That's virtually never happens.
Hmm.
And yet it's hard to argue that Scotch whiskey doesn't have a terroir with the effect of the atmosphere on the barrels based on whether they're in the Highlands or in the Space Side or Isla or
Yep.
whatever they're doing, right? Using the local peat and all that. So
And
it's a
local
similar,
water too. Yeah.
yep, it's a similar story with shochu. And the water, I think, is a great point because there's so much more dilution in shochu.
Hmm.
Usually, maybe not so much
Oh.
more, but you're getting
Oh, I
more of
see.
you're
More
getting
than
more
a
of the
single
mouth.
malt. Sure.
Yeah, you're getting more of the mouth feel of the water because in a distillate, your mouthfeel is going to come from what your fatty acids, amino acids, and that sort of thing. Otherwise, because like you just drink distilled water and there's nothing there, right? As far as the mouthfeel, but you drink a soft water or even a hard water, and you start to get some texture from the minerality and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So when you're blending that water into a distillate, depending on what water you're blending in, it's going to change the experience, right? So that is a sense of place with using the local spring water.
Hmm.
So that's a kind of a fun side of it as well. Where, and I kind of want it'd be fun to do that as an experiment. Just take some genshu, some undiluted shochu, and take water from different sources and dilute down to 25% and see how the experience changes.
Sure. If you used just Evian
Hmm.
bottled water, which is considerably harder than most Japanese water or spring
Hmm.
water, it would be a noticeable difference, I believe in. So yeah, we should give that a shot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, other notes on terroir and spirits. I mean, I think we talked about this in the episode, the Japan distilled episode, a little bit, but just to recap, I think one under the unsung hero of terroir is, of course, sweet potato shochu from southern Kyushu,
Hmm.
where the potatoes are, at least in the Satsuma shochu tradition, are always local and are required to be local in order to uphold the stricture or to respect the strictures of that GI.
Hmm.
What's more terroir driven than something that spends its entire life in the terroir, in the dirt, right? And that
Yep.
is a sweet potato.
Hmm.
And there are other tubers, of course, that could fit that description. but you know, for months up until within 24 to 48 hours of fermentation, that thing is in the ground. And
Hmm.
I don't know if there's a better or easier way to label something as being terroir driven, quite honestly. So that is a very attractive a storyline for me, and I think it's also something that just hasn't been explored enough. I'm
Hmm.
waiting for some university entity to map out the various terroir, you know, the minerality of the soil in different parts of just Kagoshima, for instance,
Right.
and southern
Yeah.
Miyazaki, and tell
Hmm.
us like they know so much about the water sources way down below all of those layers of of dirt and the whole shirasu up, you know, whatever. Every place has its story of like the layers of earth
Hmm.
above the water and how it all filters through all those layers of earth, and you have this beautiful pristine waterway down there. That earth is pretty cool too. What about
Yeah.
the stuff on top where all
Yep.
the sweet potatoes are born? That's not uniform, you
Right. Right.
know,
Right.
and they know these things. So I'm waiting for that map, but nobody's paid attention to it, or nobody's focused energy on it yet. And I don't think we have the resources to do it. I have a spoon. We could go to every different farms and start bagging samples, and I don't know how long that would take. I guess we need to buy some machinery. Maybe they have it on Amazon.
Sure. 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 You
But
just
anyway,
you reminded me of something. Let me see if I can get this. Let me see if I. Here it is.
what are you looking for?
So I never realized this, I guess, and this you were talking about the layers and the water, and I was really struck when we did the Kirishima Shizo tour.
Sure.
They actually went to the prehistory of Kyushu, basically.
Uh
So I'm
huh.
just going to share my screen. Now, this is probably not the best way to do
Oh,
it, but
you got some of the photos though from that tour.
well, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I've just got a map because to me the
Oh,
most
okay.
interesting thing was not just looking at Kyushu with a fresh eye. And
Uh huh.
so we know that right here in
Oh,
the
I see
middle
what you
of
mean.
Kagoshima is Sakurajima, one of the most active volcanoes on Earth, right? What I never realized is, and there's actually this is a volcano here. There's a few of them around, but basically this whole, well, the whole part of the bay right here, that was a crater from a massive eruption
Oh,
that
I see.
basically that
Yeah.
basically sunk the entire area. This entire area around that crater was sunk after the eruption. It was a massive, massive, massive eruption. It's kind of eruption we don't have anymore because the Earth is a much more stable, older planet, right? And the Sakurajima is actually like this little pimple on the rim of that caldera that's still active, right? And some of the other volcanoes around probably are as well. But what ended up happening is all of that sunken area filled in with sediment over time and created what Christopher was talking about, these layers. And then the water source down at the bottom filters through all of that relatively new, relatively tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of
Of time.
soil and mineral
Yeah.
and bedrock and everything into that water source that is where and it's the water source for a lot of the shochu made, at least on the Osumi side of Kagoshima.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just, I never knew that side of um, like the history, the almost prehistory of Kyushu.
Yeah.
So for me, it was very cool to learn about that aspect of it. We forget how old parts of Japan are, even though Japan's a relatively new part of the world,
Uh huh.
geologically speaking,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah.
pretty wild to realize that there was just the sheer size of that eruption. I think is almost unfathomable. I mean,
There's
it's not.
a lot of displacement. Yeah.
Yep, yep. That that was a catastrophic eruption for whatever might have been alive at the time in that part of the world. But yeah, these kinds of things are fascinating to learn. And I, you know, I've been so focused on trying to understand sort of the more recent history of shochu production and the local agriculture and things like that. I didn't even think about like what's the geological effects that led to this being the place where sweet potatoes are so prevalent, where that have developed this sense of terroir.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So more on this at Japan Distilled, the podcast. What I don't remember which number it was.
it
That's
was
number
46, maybe.
46. Yep.
I think. Am I right?
Episode number 46 is the terroir in spirits, and then episode 47 is Oita 100% barley shochu. So if you haven't had a chance to catch up on your podcast consumption, then do have a listen. And I guess we
Got
can.
another episode coming out next week sometime.
Oh, that's right.
That's going to be a fun one. We're just going to talk about the weird stuff that shochu's made out of, which should be a fun topic. We haven't recorded yet, but we'll do it soon.
All right. And moving on, let's see. Final banner of the day, which is going to be newly opened, which I haven't been able to partake in a while.
That's right. I'll go first if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
We actually mentioned it very briefly with the wine enthusiast scores, but Jikuya White, the white koji Anno Imo sweet potato shochu, now available in the States from Honkaku Spirits, is the reason I'm talking about this today is because tomorrow, well, in 2 days for you guys in the U.S. is Thanksgiving, and this is made from the sweet potatoes you eat at Thanksgiving dinner. And when I recently made a Negroni with this,
Oh yeah.
Negroni's been my recent
You make a lot of Negronis, don't you?
I have been making a lot of Negronis as my sort of, it's what I'm sipping on while I'm cooking dinner. It's like my aperitif, I guess.
It's what's for dinner.
Yeah. So but when I made a Negroni with this, you do 2-1-1, so you double up on the shochu because it's only 25% alcohol. It smells like that baked sweet potato at Thanksgiving dinner. The drink itself does. And
sounds like a good Thanksgiving treat.
If you guys still have time, go out, find a bottle, and make yourself a Negroni as your Thanksgiving aperitif. That's my recommendation.
Yep. That's
Thanksgiving
a great
in a
call.
glass.
Thanksgiving in a glass. Nice.
Yep.
My recently opened is a rice shochu from Kumamoto Prefecture named that is called Homare no Tsuyu, made by Fukano, and it's a nice rich rice shochu that is it's both fermented in a clay pot and then also aged in clay pots, and it's got a nice backbone to it. So I'm a fan. Works with hot water, which always makes me happy. And
Cool.
yeah, 25, I think. Is that right? It is 25.
Yeah, but when you held it up, I thought it was awamori. It's got that look, doesn't it?
It
Almost.
does, doesn't it? It sort of does, yeah.
That's a calligraphy style that you often see in awamori, on awamori labels. But that's cool.
It's just
Yeah,
it's just kind of old school. Yeah.
Fukano makes great stuff.
They do.
For sure. Yep. Before we go, one other terroir point that I want to make, and I'm also just, this is a little bit of a, I don't know if you'd call it a humble brag or whatever, but or just shows my tolerance for buying things. I went to Todoroki Sake stand. Not the Todoroki Sake stand. I went to their main shop. So in the Lonely Planet article, I recommended Todoroki Sake stand, which is their standing bar in a satellite liquor store in Yakuin. Great spot to have a bite, have a nice drink, and they've got a really nice bottle shop attached to it, right? So it's a great place to go. But I went to their Honten, their original location, which I hadn't been since they remodeled. They completely renovated. Basically feels like a brand new shop. I think it's some of the guts are the same, but it's now got this huge 2-story glass facade. Really, really nice space. They sell books, they sell food, they sell all sorts of things. And I'm walking around the store, I'm checking out the shochu, and I'm excited about them having brands that I usually can't get other places and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then I turn a corner and I see this.
Okay.
So Tatsumi, when we're talking about terroir, and we're talking about craftsmanship, this is a one-man operation making a shochu base eau de vie. This is actually his absinthe. Each run is about 400 to 500 bottles. He does a
And
nice
there's
wax.
small bottles too. They're like 500 mils.
This
Is
is
that right?
500. Yep.
Yeah.
And look at that fill line. This has not been opened.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's
And
not
then
500 mils then.
but not only did I find that, I also found Mitosaya.
Oh, okay.
Another like
Nice.
these. You go to their website, and every single brand is sold out.
Yeah.
Right. And this is actually a strawberry eau de vie.
Wow.
And it says fragrant, ripped. I think they mean ripened strawberry from nearby.
It's ripped. It's been in the
And
gym.
and the brand is called High Strawberries.
Nice.
This is
Love it.
and it has the batch number and the signature of the maker on the box. So you don't even dispose of the box, right? Because that's actually handwritten. They had
Ah,
different packages, and it's the same signature, but it's clearly handwritten. I haven't even taken this out of the box yet. So like local strawberry eau de vie. It's
that's
got a little bit
cool.
of a
And does that have the cool shifty top to it, or what is the? Oh, it is. It's the one that you
glass.
like. You click off to the side and then pull it out. I
Yeah,
like those
yeah,
things.
exactly. Yeah, it's really great form factor. 500 ml. Uh,
Huh.
yeah, 2021 eau de vie, 42% alcohol. And I've
Hopefully,
never tried their stuff. We did an episode on eau de vie, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
I
I've
really want to
never.
try
I
these.
don't think I've ever had any of the Mitosaya's stuff either. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was very excited to find. They had a few of their different bottles, and so if anybody is coming to Fukuoka, highly recommend you get down to their main shop. Um, and they've got these. And they just had. I think I cleared out their Tatsumi. They only had 2 bottles, and I took them both. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I got their gin, and then I'm sorry, not their gin. Their absinthe, and then I
Yeah.
got an orange gin. So I think it must be orange forward gin. I say they, it's he, right?
Sure.
The absinthe actually is 58% alcohol. I'll be using that for rinses, I think. I'm not sure I'm going to be drinking that straight. Um, yeah. Anyway,
After a
I
long
was
day, hey.
excited about finding Tatsumi and Mitosaya at the same time in the same shop
It's
for
clearly
sale
a
to
good,
consumers. 'Cause I've
very high quality shop.
only seen them in bars. I've never seen them on a liquor store shelf before, so that was
Very cool.
exciting. You probably have shops that have them in Tokyo. You just have to really look for that specialty shop that has a relationship with them. Right?
Yeah. Yep. There's so many liquor stores. I would have to do some digging to figure out.
Hmm.
You have to read all the scuttlebutt. And you have to read all the word of mouth in order to figure out who's really putting their back into it. Maybe
Sure.
that's homework for me. I'll start
Yeah.
looking into that.
Yeah. It's an expensive habit if you do find such a place.
I'm sure it is.
These were
I'm
not.
sure it is.
These were not remotely affordable.
I have managed. I probably shouldn't say this out loud because I'm going to jinx myself. But I've managed to really pump the brakes on my Yahoo auctions purchasing over the past 6 months. I'm quite a little pat on the head for me
Well,
because I've managed to just stop lurking and stop hoarding all of the good awamori and shochu that people. The thing that's nice is that people are on there looking for a deal, and I'm on there just looking for something reasonable. And reasonable is a lot more money than a deal. So
Right.
yeah, I tend to walk away with a lot of stuff that people are probably hoping is going to go much cheaper.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah. I
uh,
realized just getting back to things that we've managed to accomplish this year. We are wrapping up the year, and I remember trying to encourage you to start running with me early in the year, and that didn't happen.
I did not.
Don't really blame you, but I've continued to run, and I've stuck with my New Year's resolution of 5 kilometers earns me a beer, and I've earned over 150 beers this year.
Nice.
So yeah, it's the most I've ever run. I feel more fit than I felt since heck if I know, probably grad school. So,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been
That's
good.
good.
I don't think I'm going to continue beyond this year. It was my New Year's resolution. I'll find something new to torture myself with next year. But but it's really helped me cut way back on my beer consumption and probably a little bit healthier and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
heart health and
Hey.
whatnot. So yeah, find something to reward yourself. Somebody else seems to have taken it up. I think Tavis Allen. I don't think he's one of our. He sometimes watches the show, sometimes interacts on social. He started rewarding himself with a beer after running, but I don't think he's quite as militant about it as I am.
Are you gonna go back to cycling more next year, maybe, or?
I might also do walking. Like there's some research that suggests that a 30-minute walk after a meal is really really good for metabolism.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. You
Yeah.
you can absolutely feel it.
Yeah.
If you have indigestion problems at night, that's gonna at least have those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people in the fam who certainly are, have vials and jars of freaking all sorts of antacids that they have to be pumping several
Mm-hmm.
times a week just because, well, you ate too late, you ate too close to dinner time. But if you just happen to stay upright and went for a nice long walk afterwards, it's
Mm-hmm.
so helpful.
Yeah. I think I can do it for breakfast and lunch. I think post dinner ambulation is going to be a little bit more challenging just because of the frequent evening meetings that I have. But
Fair.
yeah, and also like certainly I'm not going to go. Well, I guess I do walk after if I'm out for dinner. It's easy enough to walk home, right?
Sure.
Get the exercise that way, but it'll be the dinners at home, getting a walk after.
One thing both our homes have in common, and we're quite fortunate, is we have nice walking paths very close to our front doors. So,
Yep. True.
it makes it like you have less of an excuse because you don't have to go for 30 minutes. You could go for 10, and
Sure.
even that'll help. So,
yeah, I mean, really, from my house, one loop of the park and back is going to be at least a 25-minute walk. So that's probably enough.
That's great. That's a mile and change right there. So,
yeah,
fantastic. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for another episode number 128 of Shochu'sday. No matter where you are in the world, please share everything that you're finding both through this live stream, all of the other resources that we recommend, and your own journey of discovery through your local liquor store and on-premise establishments. Tell your friends, take photos of everything that you're trying, and put it out there for us because this by necessity is a team effort, and it is still something that nobody knows about. And so we are the early movers, and welcome to the mission. The mission is to get Shochu and Aomori in every bar and restaurant everywhere around the world. It's a big, ambitious climb, but we're up for it. We're here for it, and we know that many people watching right now are as well. So thank you, and we'll be back next week as usual.
Absolutely.
Same time, same place. So thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody who celebrates.
Yep, and we'll
see
see you for the next Shochu'sday. Until then, from both of us here in Japan, a very, very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.
Kanpai.